before I went into the hospital, I told my husband and my mother-in-law, I said, listen, I'm going to die. I don't know what's going to happen. But as soon as they gave me the injection, I literally died. And I immediately was taken to the other side in just a second. I could still see everything that was happening below. I could see the doctor in the crash cart come in, and I could see all this happening, but I wasn't feeling anything because I was not in my body. I was gone. Then I started getting a full life review, and it was like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater, and everything that was playing out on the screen were people that had actually been kind to me. I heard from behind me, "It's not really your time. You can stay here if you want to, or you can go back. It's your choice." Why would I go back? I'm not going to go back for my husband. I'm not going to go back for my family. I'm not going back for my friends. And then I remembered that I had 2 small children. And they were the biggest reason that I came here in this lifetime, and they're what brought me the most joy. So when we come back for a little mini vacation. There's 5 lessons that our soul has to learn in order to advance.
My guest today is June Edward, who had a near-death experience. She's also a relationship coach, and she has had some pretty unusual experiences, like understanding the dimensions of heaven that we are going to explore today. So, June, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, you had a near-death experience, and I would like you to go ahead and start wherever you would like to be able to share that experience with us.
So I never considered it a near-death experience. I had never even heard the term till about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, to be honest,
Oh,
when I started
wow.
researching for a TED Talk. And I died. That's all I knew. I died. And when I started researching it, I realized that everyone is clumped together in that NDE because they don't really know how to differentiate. So the difference is this: my 16-year-old brother was in a very bad car accident. He remembers standing on the sidewalk, watching everything happen out of his body until the paramedics came, and then he went back into his body. That's a near-death experience. My girlfriend was hit by a deer through the side window. She has a traumatic brain injury, and she remembers her soul being stuck on the roof, on the headliner of the car, and she thought she did something wrong, that she couldn't go to heaven. She was stuck there like that, and she saw the deer's soul go to heaven until the paramedics came, and she went back into her body. Again, a near-death experience. And what I've learned is that when something traumatic is going to happen to you, because the majority of your soul is not in your body, it's in that 5th dimension we call the higher self. It orchestrates the timing of the events that happen in this lifetime, and it also offers you some protection for your soul. So when something traumatic like that is going to happen, your soul literally jumps out of your body. Otherwise, you take with you when you die all of the feelings that you have here, all the knowledge and all the feelings. And when I died, all I felt was the most overwhelming, deepest love you could ever, can't even imagine. However, as a medium, I've brought many, many souls through from the other side that are still, they're living their life. They're in anger, in remorse, in grief. They're not living in love because they've taken all these emotions with them, and they're still passing through that on the other side and dealing with that on the other side. So for me, I had injured my back when I was 22 years old, right after I got married, and I needed surgery. And I just knew if I had surgery, I was going to die. I just knew it. And I put it off for as long as I could. I went through 2 pregnancies, being, in bed most of my pregnancies because of the pain, and I was getting addicted to painkillers. And they basically told me I couldn't have any more children unless I had back surgery, because the disc was just gonna blow up in my back and they'd be picking out the pieces. And I knew I wanted to have more children, so I made that decision that I'm gonna have to trust. I just don't know what else to do. And sure enough, before I went into the hospital, I told my husband and my mother-in-law at the time, my friend, I said, "Listen, I'm gonna die. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm gonna die. No, oh, no, 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 you're just afraid." And I'm like, "No, you don't understand. I know that I'm gonna die. I feel that it's gonna be okay, but I know that I'm gonna die." And the night before my surgery, I went in for an MRI, and told them that I thought I was allergic to the contrast dye, and they just brushed it off and said, "It's a normal reaction. Everybody has that reaction." I'm like, "Oh, okay. What do I know? I'm only 27 years old, right?" And certainly, sure enough, as soon as they gave me the injection, I literally died. And I immediately was taken to the other side in just a s a second. And I could still see everything that was happening below. I could see, the doctor go over to me and then, go hit the thing on the wall and the crash cart come in. And I could see all this happening, but I wasn't feeling anything because I was not in my body. I was gone. And then my attention got taken to the front of me and I started getting a full life review. And it was like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater. And everything that was playing out on the screen were people in my life because I had had a terrible childhood and a terrible upbringing. These were all scenes of all the happy times in my life, the people that had actually been kind to me, my wedding, things like that were playing out. And as it's happening, I heard from behind me, "It's not really your time. You can stay here if you want to, or you can go back. It's your choice." So now I'm watching this movie and I'm saying to myself, I'm feeling all this love and no pain and no weight, just weightlessness. And I'm like, why would I go back? I'm not going to go back for my husband. I'm not going to go back for my family. I'm not going back for my friends. I have no reason to go back. Why would I go back? And then I remembered that I had 2 small children, and they were the biggest reason that I came here in this lifetime, and they're what brought me the most joy in my life. And as soon as I decided I was gonna go back for my children, I was back in my body again in another second. It was really, really amazing.
That is really, really amazing. So you were young and you didn't know about near death experience. So did you ever talk to any of the doctors and nurses and get a confirmation about what you witnessed that they were doing?
Oh, I didn't need to. I know what happened. As soon as they were not having any luck. He had injected the line, he had paddled me twice. He flipped the bed entirely up to try to get all the blood to rush to my head. Then he was slapping me across the face saying, "We can't lose you. We can't lose you." So when I came back, he just came over to me. He goes, "You are so lucky that this was the end of my month." Apparently, he was a resident, he wasn't a doctor, the residents do this test. He goes, "If this had been the beginning of my month," he goes, "I wouldn't have been able to bring you back." I'm saying
Why
to
is
myself,
that? Why does that mean? Why don't I
because
understand?
he wouldn't even realize what was happening to me. He wouldn't even
Oh, you
realize
wouldn't have
that
had
I
enough
had died.
experience?
He wouldn't have had enough experience to know that I'd already died. Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
exactly. Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, so you also had a life review. June, I am obsessed with the life review. As a matter of fact, the real reason that I began interviewing people who had near death experiences was because I was so completely impacted by hearing other people talk about their life review. So, will you elaborate a little bit more about what the life review felt like to you as you were going through it?
So like I said, it was like sitting in the front row of an IMAX theater, and it's playing out on a 30-foot screen, like a movie. But what I have learned is, we write our story before we come here. You write everything that's happened in your life, and it's extremely complicated. It's done with the ascended masters and the angels, and karma gets into this because you're collecting your karmic debts from people that you come back with, and you're paying the ones that you owe, and you're here to reinforce your lessons that you need to learn, and you're here to have some fun. Okay, you make the plan before you come here. And what I learned was because I'd had such a difficult life, that I had written that into my life plan as an out that I could have taken and it would not have messed up anything going forward, amazing as it sounds. Now, I've talked to quite a few people about their life reviews as well, and what I've learned is that they know what they're doing when they show you your life review, okay? They wanted me to come back. They knew I was coming back, and in fact, I joke with them now. I'm like, "You knew I was coming back. What do you mean giving me the choice? You always want us to think we have a choice. You knew I was coming back. You knew what you had planned for me. Absolutely, you knew." And they just laugh, when I say that now to them, they just laugh.
I think that that's hilarious. And what an amazing observation. And I think you are exactly right because very rarely do I ever talk to anybody who saw everything in their life. A lot of times it is just pieces of it. So, can you share some of the pieces that stood out? Were there parts that you had not remembered about your life or things that stood out that you thought, wow, I never even thought that that was a thing and I'm surprised I'm seeing it?
No, not really. Like I said, they were just trying to show me scenes that were very happy for me here. I think trying to entice me to come back, the people that I cared about, the friends that I had, my wedding, which was a huge event. But they were not, that my children were not in my movie, which I thought was, what is that all about? Here they are, my only reason for coming back, and you didn't have them in my life review? Really? My biggest reason for being here?
Oh, that's interesting. So, did you only experience your life from your vantage point, or did you experience it from others' vantage points
No,
too?
only from my
Okay.
own.
Okay,
Yeah.
they're all so unique and different,
Yeah.
all of these.
Yeah, they are, and I mean, this was literally like somebody took an old camcorder and was filming my wedding, and that's the pictures that are it's like, it was an action, everything was an action thing that they were showing me, but yeah, I always found it very interesting that you don't show me my children, and they're my biggest reason, and the only reason I came back here. I
Yes.
would not have come back for any other reason, it's just too amazing on the other side.
Yes, I agree with you there. So, when you're having this life review, were you aware of any other beings around you watching this at the same time?
So, I could see everything that was happening below me, what was happening to me. I could hear the nurses talking in the hallway about what was going on and kind of joking about it, right? Before they're coming down with the crash cart. I could see the room behind me had an older man in there that they were working. I could see all of that area all happening. But the only other person or whoever it was at the time, I had no clue, was the voice behind me, and I didn't turn around. And believe it or not, it's only been within the last year that I was curious enough to ask, who was that person?
Oh,
And
do you
yeah,
know?
I do. It's my guardian angel. And so my guardian angels are not angels. Okay. Angels are a separate race. They were never never human. Your guardian angel is always someone who has been connected to you throughout your lifetimes, like a relative or a friend, and steps up and offers to be your guardian angel for your lifetime. And this happened to be my grandmother that I've never met, who's actually my aunt. And that's so my mother was adopted by her aunt. So, she thought it was her mother, but it was really her aunt. So, I'm hearing grandmother, aunt, grandmother, I'm like, "Oh my god, I know who you are." And that's my guardian angel.
Oh, that's super cool to uncover. And also, you said you didn't know her, but I'm using like air quotes when you're saying that because, of course, you would have known her before you came here. And obviously, she would
At
have been
some
with you
point
for
in
multiple
time, but that
lifetimes,
yeah,
right?
but it's not something I'm gonna remember here in this lifetime because 'cause I'm not supposed to. No one is
Sure.
gonna give you the information that they want you to have or that you need while you're here.
Okay.
You're not supposed to have all the answers while you're here.
No.
Otherwise, it wouldn't be any fun, would it? If you knew everything that was gonna happen every day before you woke up, you wouldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
Just wouldn't be any fun.
So you also mentioned that you have medium abilities, and it's very, very common. I would say almost every person that I've ever talked to who had a near-death experience comes back with something that is different about them than before. Like they're affecting electronics, like they can never wear a watch again. They're affecting the computer, etc. Or they come back with enhanced abilities, medium abilities. Did you come in with some of those and they were enhanced more?
They were. So I was born with a lot of ability, and my
Mhm.
earliest experience was probably about the age of 3.
Oh,
And,
wow.
you know, you don't put labels on it as a kid. I didn't know what was going on. And when I would tell people what was going to happen before it happens, I got labeled a freak in school. So you stop, you try to block it as best as you can. But I would see people and I thought everybody else saw them too. And apparently they didn't. I was the only one.
No, that
um,
makes so much sense because as you're a kid, you only know your world, so you would
yeah,
assume that everybody else has the same world that you have.
exactly. I remember at 10 years old, my parents had split and I was doing the dishes and there was a woman who would keep me company every night and I didn't know anybody. We moved. And she was in her 40s, and she would just talk to me and keep me company when I did the dishes every day. And I asked my older brother who she was, and I don't know if he saw her or not, because there's a lot of ability in our family, but he laughed at me and started telling me how she was the woman that used to live in the house and her husband threw her down the stairs and killed her. And it scared me so much, she never came back. She felt the difference in the vibration and didn't come back. And it
Oh.
scared me so much that I tried to block more of my ability. It was frightening as a child.
I bet it was. So, because I'm going to ask you this question here because I know a little bit about your background, which is that you have done a lot of work with helping people with relationships. Since children and parents is a very significant relationship, knowing what you know about your medium abilities that you had when you were younger, what would you tell the people who are watching right now who are experiencing these abilities that their children are having, what would you recommend that they do to either help their children or to get through this time?
So encourage it. Don't turn around and tell them, "Oh, that's not really here." Oh, my son had a friend named Urfy. Urfy would have to sit at the dinner table with us every night. Knowing what I know now, I would be a little more leery because what I do is I teach people how energy works so that you can feel the energy. Everybody's walked into a birthday party and felt that high energy, and everyone's walked into a funeral and felt that low energy. But you have to learn how to discern that energy, especially if there's a spirit in your home. Is it demonic? I mean, a lot of times they'll take the soul of a child and they'll come across as a demonic because 'cause they're looking to, infiltrate your home and get your children's attention. So you've gotta be very careful with that, but you don't wanna discourage them either or tell them that's not real, you've got it's a fine line there. It really is. You gotta be careful. But you wanna listen to them, you wanna encourage them, and don't discourage them when they're seeing things that you're not.
It makes a lot of sense. And I guess maybe this is also a good time to add this part in. What do you do, June, knowing that there are entities that are not maybe of the light? How do you instruct people to protect themselves or to teach their children to protect themselves? Because we have free
So,
will that they can't violate. Would you agree with that?
explain that. What do you mean that
Okay,
they can't
so
violate it?
in my opinion, from what I've experienced on the other side, free will, I have been shown, is the biggest tenant that we have here that cannot be violated. So if I am in a situation and I want to surround myself with white light, or I have an entity that I'm communicating with, I will say, I am only interested in communicating with you, or if you are of the light. And they are not allowed to violate that free will. Now, I'm not saying that people here on earth can't violate because we see that all the time. But in the spirit realm, when you set the boundaries, they're not allowed to cross over from my experiences on the other side. But that might be different than yours too.
Yeah, yeah, my experience is different from that.
Okay,
So there's levels of everything and there are layers of protection, okay?
sure.
And that's fine. You wanna do that, like, if you're gonna do a meditation or something, you wanna call on Archangel Michael and surround yourself in the white light, all that stuff. But great example. Um, I used to work with authors, famous authors from other countries and things that wrote paranormal books, and they would send me pictures to look at and ask me what I saw and if I can give them any information and interpret it for them. So, I would just surround myself with white light and sit there and do it. Well, one day, I was given a picture of a, scribing bowl, and I was giving them all the information from the home, from the bowl, everything that I was seeing, And as I was doing this, I was being attacked by a sorcerer who died in the 1500s, but they've got a lot more power on the other side than they do here. And as I'm on the phone giving them the information, within all of 2 or 3 minutes, I got a sty in my eye, and my eye closed up solid and swelled right up, which is what they would have done in the 1500s, put a sty in your eye, right? Well, that took more than a month to heal. It took 2 to 3 minutes, and had I known I was dealing with a sorcerer, I would have done a salt circle before I even did that, because
Tell
this
us what that
level.
is. What's a salt circle?
So, um, evil is positively charged. Um, Good energy is negatively charged. So when you wanna neutralize that, salt is a neutralizer. This is why, if you're an empath and you're absorbing all the negativity from everyone, that's positively charged. Salt is negatively charged. It will neutralize that immediately. And that's what this does if anything is negative is trying to come at you that way. You can use salt. You can use a layer of holy bowls of holy water and set those out. There's different levels and layers because, yes, the more demonic something is, they can permeate just your light. They can still permeate that and attack you. Absolutely. So there are levels.
So tell me a little bit about the salt. So I think people have access to more to salt than to holy water. So if somebody needed to do this, is there a specific kind of salt, and what would the how would they put it around them to
It
use it this
is.
way?
So you wanna use sea salt, first of all. You don't wanna use Morton salt. You wanna use sea salt, good sea salt.
No
And
iodine in there.
no. So if you're just an empath and you come home from the day and you're out with people and you've absorbed all this negativity and you wanna just get rid of it, before you take a shower or a bath, just wet your skin a little bit and rub it on you dry, and you will feel it neutralize immediately. Don't just dump it in the water. Just rub it on you, and you will immediately will neutralize it, and then you can take your bath or your shower. If you're trying to protect yourself, you literally want a closed circle of it around you with you in the middle, and that is for the protection. And holy water is really easy to get. You go down to the store and you get 1 gallon of distilled water. You walk it down to your Catholic church and you ask the priest to bless it. You can have a gallon of holy water at your disposal.
Okay. So with the salt, once you step out of the circle, does that mean you're not protected anymore?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, let's also talk a little bit about energy. You mentioned that you understand things now about energy after your near death experience. Will you explain to us what you've learned?
So when you talk about energy, frequency, vibration, it's all just a different term for the same thing. Okay. And when you think of the speed of light, it's almost 300 million miles a second. That is a very high vibration. And when you go into the light, that's the vibration that you're at. And then I came back into this body at that high vibration. So, I'm able to go back and forth to that lowest level of heaven, that fifth dimension at will. I go back there constantly. And I think I can do that so easily because of the fact that my vibration is still so high from having been in the light. I've done house clearings. I've chased a demon around a 3 family, and I made it very clear that I'd been in the light and I came with the angels, and they did. And this thing ran like crazy, growling at me, swearing at me. The paranormal group had it on, had recordings of it, and they heard it on the audio. It was crazy.
That is crazy. So, with energy, are there things that we can do to help us raise our vibration? Like, what has been the most effective in doing that?
So we're magnets, okay? So we're always either attracting or repelling in our life, okay? So the law of attraction is all about what are you attracting in your life? Everything that's in your life is on the same energetic thread that you are. It's like a radio station. You can't get the station in unless you're on that same frequency, right? And it's the same thing. Everyone that's in your life is on that energetic frequency that you're on. So if you don't like what's going on in your life, raise your vibration, those things fall off and new things come in. But always remember, you have to have a void to fill before you can fill the void. So you can't bring in something different until you get rid of what you've got. Okay. You can't live in two houses at the same time, right? One or the other. So to raise your vibration, lots of things can raise your vibration. Laughing, being happy, being in love. Think about being in love. For anybody that's been in love, right? You're walking on air, right? That's a really high vibration. Love is the highest vibration there is. It's the highest. So meditation is a wonderful way to raise your vibration. And the reason for that is this: because your soul is so big, only some of it's in your body. Some of it's over your body that some people can see, and they call it an aura. That's part of your soul. And the largest amount of your soul is in that lowest level of heaven, that fifth dimension. And it orchestrates the timing of events in your life, and it holds all the knowledge of all your lifetimes. So when you meditate and you do it properly, you're connecting to that piece of your soul that's actually in the fifth dimension at that extremely high vibration. So it raises the vibration of the soul that's in your body here. And when you learn how to balance that energy, you maintain the high vibration. This is the problem with the law of attraction. Everybody teaches the law of attraction, but they don't teach you how to balance your energy. And because everything in the universe has to stay in balance, if you raise your vibration and you don't balance it, you're going to crash and lose everything. And that's what happens to people.
I am so glad you brought that up, June. I've probably had this conversation 15 times with NDEers, and we all have said the same thing. The thing that was missing about the law of attraction was the energy vibration for in adding to whatever you were trying to manifest or bring in. That was
You
the
have to
missing
balance. You have
piece.
to balance it. Yeah, you got to balance it to maintain it. Yeah, it's
Let's
not easy to do. I teach people how to balance that energy. It's not easy.
Okay. Well, let's go back to another point that you made that I think is really difficult for some people who are new to these conversations, which is that we plan everything in our lives. And I think you made the comment that if you're not happy with the way your life is going, it's a result of what you are doing and what you've been focusing on and what you've been bringing it in. And people love to play the blame game, and they don't want to take the responsibility that the things that are going on in their lives, they want to say it's all these external things that happened. So tell us a little bit more about what you understand about planning our lives to come here and why we do that.
So we do it for a lot of reasons. On the other side, first of all, time is a concept, okay? The faster you move, the slower time is. So on the other side, it's about 3.5 to 4 years of our time for 1 year on the other side. But when you've been there for 350 to 400 of our years is when they finally decide to come back and reincarnate again, because everybody's gone that they knew. Um, it's nice to have a little mini vacation because you don't have a body on the other side. There's things that you can't do and experience when you have a body. That's the reality. You can't taste the food. You can't have sex. You can't do lots of things. It's why they used to say, set an extra table at the dinner table and they'll come join you, right? They will, but they're living vicariously through you. When you're eating that turkey dinner, they're remembering how good it was and what it tasted like. They live vicariously through us from the other side. So when we come back for a little mini vacation. We come back to, there's 5 lessons that our soul has to learn in order to advance. And you come back to reinforce those lessons or to help another soul learn the lessons that they're missing. Okay. Or maybe you're missing one of the lessons that you still have to learn. You have to have those 5 lessons. And paying back your karmic debts, collecting those debts. Those are the main reasons we come here. So everything is pre-planned and it is so intricate, it's unbelievable. You sit down like you're going to make a Monopoly game with all the angels and the ascended masters and who's going to come in this time and play my parents. And maybe it's just a karmic relationship and they're going to, put you up for adoption. Who knows? It really depends. You really put this whole thing together the way you want it to be. And once you get here, the universe wants you to think you have free will. That's the big thing. They want you to have free will, but you really don't. Things happen the way they're supposed to. There's no accidents in life. There's no coincidences. But if you're off your path, they're going to step in. Let's say you were supposed to move to the West Coast for a new job. And when you move out there, maybe you were going to save somebody's life when you're out there, right? Or maybe you're going to get married and you're going to have 16 kids or whatever, right? But that's where your life's supposed to be. And you're not going. I'm staying here. I don't know anybody out there. You're living in fear. You're making decisions in fear, which most people do, not from their soul, but from their brain. So I'm afraid to go. I don't know anybody. I'm going to stay here. Well, the universe is going to do something to make you get there. Whether you lose your job and have your house burned down, something's going to happen that you're going to go because that's where you're supposed to be. And hindsight's 2020. We can always look back and say, "Oh, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have met you," that type of thing. But when you're in it, when you're in the thick of it, it's horrible, right? Going through it is horrible because you can't understand why this would happen to you, right? Because you're not on the path that you wrote. You're not playing the story out the way it's supposed to go. That's the reason for it.
Will you share with us the 5 main lessons that you feel the
Sure.
souls are here to learn?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have the relationship mastery program, which I've put hundreds of people through. And what I learned was that every one of them with learning at least one or all 5 of these lessons, and they all learned them all. And that the book came out after. So the first one is self-worth. And it's not value because that's what other people place on you. But self-worth is the understanding that you are so important. You're the only one of you in this entire universe. How special is that? You're here for a reason. There's no accidents in life. Okay. And it is not selfish and it is not narcissistic to put yourself first, as society would like you to believe. It's where everything comes from. If you don't put yourself first, you're not going to be here to help anybody else, are you? You just won't be here. It's that simple. Then you have trust and communication. You have to trust that there is a higher power, there is a God. Doesn't matter what you call it, there is only one. And you have to trust that there is a plan and that you made the plan. So when things aren't going the way you like them to go, you've got to remember you wrote it. You must be doing something that's different from where you're supposed to be. And sex is nothing more than trust and communication. If you can't trust and communicate outside the bedroom, you're never going to trust and communicate inside the bedroom. Then you have unconditional love. Well, that starts with you, and we're back to self worth again. All these lessons will keep reinforcing each other. Unconditional love is exactly that. It's not getting married, having children, getting a divorce, and I hate his guts. Da, da, da. No, that's not unconditional love. How about a different perspective with that? You wouldn't have had those children without him, right? You love your children. You're here for a reason. You're here to learn these. And if you can't learn unconditional love, the universe will just keep making it tougher on you. Maybe they'll take your child away. Maybe they'll get killed by a drunk driver. And you have to realize that was probably your child's plan. Maybe they weren't supposed to be here that long. Are you going to hate in your heart the driver? That's all fear based. Or are you going to be able to say, there for the grace of God go I. Could have been me hitting someone else's child if I'd written that into my plan, right? You don't know, but you have to keep the love in your heart. And even though your child's not there, you have to still love your child there or not as well. And, a lot of people will say to me, well, it's conditional. It was your child. It was this, it was that. The universe will keep making it tougher and tougher on you until you can learn that unconditional love lesson, because that's what the highest vibration is. Then you have money and balance. Money is energy. That's why it's called currency. And it's what we use in the 3D world to show whether or not your life is in balance. Everything has to stay in balance in the universe. This is why you have night and day. You have black and white. You have, up and down, left and right. Everything has to be in balance. And there has to be an equal exchange of energy. So you don't walk into the grocery store and plop down $1,000,000 to buy a couple of bananas. That's not an equal exchange of energy. It has no value otherwise. When I first started my program, I had given it to a couple of military people at no charge. Neither one of them did the program because it had no value. There was not an equal exchange of energy there. There has to be that equal exchange to get the value. If you're working all day long, 2 jobs, 80 hours a week, your life is out of balance. You have no time for your friends, your family, your hobbies. And then if you're just saving all your money and hoarding it, you don't have enough self-worth to even spend the fruits of your labor on yourself. Because money is energy, the secret to it is what you put out keeps coming back. It has to flow like a river. If you think of an electrical current, it has to keep flowing. You have to keep putting it out and bringing it back. No one was meant to live in lack. We're all meant to live an abundant life. And you have to know that and trust that and follow whatever, is given to you. Just do it. And they will make sure that you live a life of abundance. It's just amazing when you understand that concept. And the last lesson we all have to learn is patience. And patience is tough. We live in a world right now of instant gratification. Everybody wants everything now. And it doesn't work that way. If you're waiting for the 6'3", eyes of blue man to sweep you off your feet, but you never leave your house and you stay on the couch all day, the universe will bring them to you, but you got to do your part. You got to go out the door. Everything comes in the time it's supposed to come.
I
And you have to
agree.
trust that and know that. Yeah.
So much wisdom in all those. I'm glad that you started your first one with the self-worth. You're
That's
reminding
where
me
it
of
all
Anita
began.
Moorjani's near-death experience where she went to the other side and she realized that because she didn't love herself enough, it had caused her cancer. And I'm not saying that that's what everybody who has cancer has experienced, but in her experience, it was that. And that self-love is so important. And I love that you're highlighting that. And I also love that you said money is energy, and that's why it's called currency. It made me laugh when you said that. That was awesome. But all of those points are super valid. The one I want to ask you about is the unconditional love. I feel like we can get unconditional love from our pets, but I feel like there's always some kind of a condition that holds us in the human form where we can't quite get there until we're not in the human form anymore. What would you say about that? What do you feel about that?
So, remember when you're in this body, you have a brain, right? Your brain is a massive computer. Other than processing all your information, your brain has a very specific job. Your brain's job is to protect you. How does it do that? It does it by creating fear. The opposite of love is fear. It's not hate, it's fear. So you have to get out of the brain, first of all, and connect with your soul in order to experience that unconditional love. And you have to let go of the ego. Those are the two things that stop people from having unconditional love. No one's done anything to you. No one can do anything to you. Everything that's being done is always being done for you. And when you understand that, you can really look at the things that happen in your life and understand why they've happened.
I am so glad you shared that. It has been the biggest thing that I've implemented over the past 2 years is that when anything happens to me, good or bad, instead of reacting or as I begin to react, the thing I change in my mind is saying it's all happening for me and not to me. Because you can't understand in the moment sometimes until you have hindsight why something happened the way it did or what you're supposed to get out of it. And that has changed my life more than anything else I've done.
And this is where the trust comes in. You have to trust that there is a plan and it's all happening for a reason. It's
Yeah.
always for your highest and best, always. Anything that's happening to you and everyone that's on the other side, your angels, your guides, your loved ones that are on the other side, everyone there wants to see you succeed here. Everything they ever try to do is to help you and for your highest and best. That's all they want. That's all they want for you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your medium abilities because I know that you worked with some law enforcement and been able to help solve some things through that channel too. So, will you explain what happened after your near death experience with your medium abilities?
Yeah, so, I got interested in it after. I still had fear, and you cannot do this work if you have fear, and I started going on haunted vacations with my ex-husband, so we went
Wait a
to
minute, wait
every
a minute. You can't skip over that. What is a fun vacation?
We went to we would just go on haunted vacations everywhere and stay in haunted houses and, stayed on the Queen Mary. I've been there twice. I went to the haunted Toys R Us in Sunnyvale,
What?
California, and went to Alcatraz and everything that was known to be haunted on the National Register, I went to.
So
And
tell me what you like. What was the craziest thing you ever experienced doing that?
Probably the morgue. They'd opened I happened to be on the ferry ride over, and I overheard a conversation of one of the guards saying, "I'm gonna open the morgue tonight and let a few people in. We've never opened it before, but if you wanna see it, come down to the morgue at 7 o'clock, and whoever's there, I'll let in." And I'm like, "We're there." So so we went, and, my abilities were, I guess I was kinda like putting a toe in the water, okay? Um, I still had fear of my abilities, but I was curious, and I was getting more and more curious. So, we went into the morgue, there was only about 10 of us. It was pitch black. I was taking pictures everywhere. When I'm looking at the pictures after, one of the pictures, there was a woman standing, right next to me and right next to the wall, and in the picture, there was a rat this big right next to her on the shelf, and we couldn't see it because it was so dark. But I was taking pictures inside of, the little sleeves where they would put the bodies, and there were orbs, demonic figures. The other craziest thing was I owned a bar, and, I had holy water at all the doors, so nothing demonic could come in, and my bartender took pictures one night because she saw an orb go flying through. We knew the place was haunted, I had talked to him, it was a cook that used to work there, but, she took pictures, and I have a picture of outside the window, and you can picture about 14 faces looking in with no bodies below because she took it going across. Here's the table, here's the mailbox, and there's about 14 faces looking in, trying to get into they couldn't come in because they couldn't go by the holy water. They have not been into the light. They're just but that's what it looks like. It's a episode of The Walking Dead, they're all over the place.
Do they want to try and get in a bar area because it has to do with drinking and lowering either inhibitions or changing the spirit in some way?
No, it's because, they enjoyed it when they were alive. So, just
Oh,
music, dancing, drinking, partying, but
okay.
they also are hanging around those places, and the ones that are looking for a body will, make an attachment onto you, and you'll end up bringing them home. So, we kinda skipped over protecting yourself. So, what I tell everyone to do is, first of all, everyone should wear some type of a talisman that is some type of a religious symbol because they're visual. They'll look at you, they'll see that, they won't want the fight, and they'll go on to the next person. But they also will walk in off the street. So I make sure every room in my house has some type of religious picture on the wall, a cross, Archangel Michael figurine, something. Because when they walk in and they see that, they'll walk right back out. They're not
So
going to
more
hang around.
effective than saging.
So saging gets rid of negative energy. Say you had some friends come over and you had a small party in your house, and a lot of them might bring in a lot of negativity, and they could have brought an attachment with them. That's the reason that you would sage. You get rid of all of that negativity and any entities that are hiding in your house. So you got to make sure you do it properly because they'll hide underneath your bed, they'll hide in your closet, they'll hide behind the door. You have to really be diligent on saging everything if you think you've got an entity in there.
Okay, so you said that there's a method to the saging. Can you describe what you would do?
Yeah, so, for instance, if it's a three-family building, you wanna start in the basement, you wanna work your way up, and as you get up to the 2nd floor and the 3rd floor, you wanna make sure windows and doors are open because they can't move any faster than you or I. They haven't come from the light. Their vibration is the same as a human being, okay? When I feel them, it's the same as someone that's still alive because their vibration is the same. They haven't gone into the light. So they can't move that fast. If they wanna go somewhere, they'll hitch a ride in your car at a stop sign and get out at the next one. So I have a rosary hanging from my, rearview mirror so they can't get in my car. Those are the types of things that you need to do to protect yourself because they will can't come home with you, and they might make themselves quite cozy. Um, and I know quite a few people that have gotten full-blown possessions because now they think it's cool. "Oh, I've got this ghost in my house, and, oh, now we're friends," and no, 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 no. You do not want them in your home, trust me. They're just gonna feed off your energy, and if they're, negative or demonic at all, then they want your body, and they're gonna try and take over your body. You don't want them in your house.
Well, I'm sorry
Um
we got off on a little tangent because I just could not resist. asking you about these vacations that you took, but you were explaining a little bit more about how your medium abilities developed. So in the early days, you said that you would take these vacations to these haunted
Yeah.
locations.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I started going through a divorce with my second husband, and, I was running, like, 5 businesses, and I was quite overwhelmed with everything, and I went to have some Reiki work done, which is energy work, and she recommended that I try to meditate, and I'm like, "I can't meditate, I can't shut my brain off, I got way too much going on." And the first time that I tried, it was like they kicked the door into the other side, "She's ready!" And I could not shut it off. I was working in my business as a medical esthetician. I went in that morning and I would take the overflow. The first person that I did, I'm like, "Did your aunt just die?" And she's like, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I'm like, "I have no idea how I knew." "Did you clean our house out this weekend?" She goes, "Yeah, we did." I'm like, "Did you happen to find one of those sock puppets that's like a monkey from the '50s?" She goes, "Yeah, we found one in the attic." And I'm like, "Oh my god, what's going on here?" Are you just going along with me? Or I'm like, then the next one comes in and I'm like, "Oh, you're a little worried about your husband for some reason?" She goes, "Yeah, how'd you know?" I'm like, "I don't know. Something weird is happening to me. I suddenly know all these things." She's like, "Yeah, he's in Florida. First time he's had a vacation without me." I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Do you live in like this little blue A-frame house on the water?" She goes, "No, we live in a big white house in in the back here." I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, good, okay, all right." Something I just don't know where that came from. Okay. So now finish her up. All of a sudden, she comes running back into the room with her phone. "Look, look." I look at her phone. She goes, "Look what my husband sent me as you were telling me that." Blue A-frame house on the water, and his caption is, "I found our next house." And it just continued. And the next one came in, and she had a soldier in full uniform walking behind her. And I'm like, "Are you a widower?" She goes, "Yeah, my husband died, about a year and a half ago." I'm like, "Was he in the service?" She goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Oh, um, if he had any messages for you or anything, would you wanna know?" She's like, "Absolutely not." I'm like, "Okay." So now I got this guy standing next to me for the whole service, and I'm like, "Buddy, I'm sorry, she does not wanna hear from you. She doesn't wanna know." It was, like, really freaky, and I was freaking out. I couldn't turn it off. The next morning I wake up, I've got like 30 spirits in my bedroom again because you attract them. And I'm calling everybody from every magazine I can. "How do I turn this off?" They're like, "I don't know." Like, "You're a medium. What do you mean you don't know?" They're like, "Well, I can't do that." "What do you mean? What do you do?" So, it's the old adage that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I ended up finding a woman who was giving a lecture, who was a medium and had an office in Boston. And she had a cancellation and was able to fit me in. And
No
um,
accidents.
no, there aren't. But, and she had a witch on her property that was ringing the doorbell from the time I got there. While I'm in there, still ringing the doorbell. She's like, "Just ignore it. It's the witch on the property." I'm like, "Well," she's like, "Well, let me show me what you can do." I'm like, "I don't know. It's not on demand, you know? I just can't stop it." She's like, "Well, bring through somebody that's related to me." I'm like, "How do I do that?" She goes, "Well, just tell me who you see and what you see." So I brought through her entire 3 generations back from the potato farmers in Ireland and on and on and on. And then we proceed to talk about the witch on the property. Now I can see what she looks like and the whole 9 yards, and she's angry and she's banging on pans. Well, I leave and I start driving down the highway, and all of a sudden I realize she's in the front seat of my car. I screamed. I pulled off the side of the highway, and all the papers in my car went flying. I'm like, "Oh my god." Yeah, I
Wow.
learned the hard way.
That's incredible. Well, I did promise people when I introduced you that we would talk about how you understand the levels of heaven to work. So start with the earth and how you've been shown this works from a level perspective. And I'm going to preface this by saying, and I hope you agree, that on the other side, there is no good, better, best. So when we're talking
No, no, no,
about
no, no,
these, there's
no.
no good, better, best, right?
No, no. Um, and it's not just levels, but everything's dimensions, okay? And
Right.
dimensions, they're difficult to explain because they don't just include different spaces, but they also include the future and the past. Okay,
Right,
those
because
are also
time doesn't
dimensions.
happen
Exactly,
literally on the other
exactly.
side.
Yeah. So we're in 3D here on Earth. 4D is your dream state. When you go to sleep at night, more of your soul actually leaves your body and can go wherever it wants to go. The 5th dimension is the lowest level of heaven, and that's where the majority of your soul is while you're here. So, if somebody wants to talk to you that's passed from the other side, you're not paying attention during the day, your soul will meet with their soul in that 4D dream state, and you'll know it's not a dream, but a visit. If it feels real, you wake up right away and you remember it all. That is a visit. That's not a dream. Okay. But you can also visit other souls of people that are still alive and here. If so, let's say you had a sister in California and she was going through something traumatic and she hadn't been in contact with you, and all of a sudden you had that dream that night and you know it's real, it feels real, you talked with her, you woke up right away, her soul was coming to visit you to give you information. You can do that as well. And then they explained it to me that it's like a layer cake on the other side. Now, whether it's because 'cause I'm a chef and I used to do cakes, I don't know, but they explain it to me like a layer cake, and that you go to the level and the dimension based on your belief system and how advanced your soul is. Okay? Now, for instance, they're always teaching from the other side, always. Now, when my mom was dying, Archangel Michael, there was an angel in the room, okay? I didn't know who it was at the time. Asked my mom if she saw it, she didn't see it right away, and my mom was a medium as well when she was alive. When I came back the next day, found out she was terminal, asked her again if she saw the angel, she said yes, she'd seen it from the night before. So during the night, I asked the angel his name, and he said it was Makael. Never heard of Angel Makael, so I looked it up. Makael was the angel that brings advanced souls to the higher realms when they pass. So now I was able to watch my mom's soul leave her body and go to the higher realms with the angel and her parents and her, her brother and um but I wasn't able to go there. I can't go past the 5th dimension while I'm here. I can go back and forth to that lowest level of heaven, but I can't go past that while I'm in this body. But they allowed me to see it. Okay. Interesting thing that came down the road a couple years later, took me that long, because I work as a doula as well, and I help people pass to the other side that are in hospice that don't have any family. And Archangel Michael is there every time to help bring them to the other side. So I looked up Makael again, and it said, "Makael is Archangel Michael." I'm like, "Duh."
You're the 3rd person I've heard use that specific name with him.
Makael, yep. I had never heard it before, and I didn't even realize Makael is Michael. Yep, and he's there, he takes everyone to the other side. He takes you into the light.
Do you have any idea how many dimensions there may be?
I have no idea, and it was only recently that I brought a woman through for her son, and I always ask them on the other side, "What are you doing for fun? What do you do when you're on there? What are you doing?" Some of them are hanging around, some of them aren't doing much of anything, some of them golf, and some of them are fishing, whatever it was they enjoyed when they were here, and this woman said that she was traveling back in time to go through everything she had learned in the history books, and she was pissed because she'd been lied to her whole life. And when I told her son this, he started laughing. He said, "Well, that makes a lot of sense. She was a history teacher,
Oh, wow.
but she was time traveling." Now, I've only time traveled myself, maybe twice. The first time I did it, I was still in my training and I was doing an in depth meditation, and I happened to have flown over Europe in I wanna say the 1300s or the 1400s, that time period. That was the first time I'd ever done it. And, I can go back in people's Akashic records because I read those, and I can read my own, and I can go back to any time period at that point. But to actually have my soul, time travel like that, that was the first time I'd ever done it.
Wow, I love that you shared all of that. Well, June, you have so much amazing information that you have put into the world. And I'm sure that there are people watching right now who are like, where do I connect with you? So tell everybody about the book that you wrote and how people can work with you and connect with you.
Sure. So you can go to my website. That's the easiest way. And it's just my name, juneedward.com. There's no S, juneedward.com. And there are links to all of my books. There are lots of videos that you can watch. There's a free webinar you can sign up for about relationship information. And you can schedule an appointment with me if you'd like to talk to somebody from the other side, if you just want information in your own life, what's going to go on, what's happening. I read destiny cards and I read Akashic records. So if you've got something that's going on in this lifetime that you need to clear up, and that's what the Akashic records are really, really good for. If you've got a problem in this life that you can't get beyond, you don't like having sex, you just, you're very fearful or you're claustrophobic, anything like that that you want to get rid of, we can go back and find out where that's coming from.
Beautiful. Well, June, I have so enjoyed my conversation. I feel like we went super deep and you shared a lot of wisdom of what you've learned from your near death experience. So I want to thank you for your part in what you are doing to help wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having the platform to do it.
Yeah. And of course, this show is absolutely nothing without all of you who tune in to watch, to listen, and to share these amazing experiences. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Do you believe that love never dies and you want to hear stories that prove it? Well, hit the subscribe button. You belong here.